I'm gonna have to go a little fast on this since Inside the Box took so much time. But I began this week's anime watching with Princess Jellyfish, I think, because I was finished with the other thing. That was overall a pretty amusing series. Very entertaining to watch. Sometimes I go into it worried that it's going to be something like, I guess maybe Paradise Kiss, which I didn't enjoy as much, but for some reason, Princess Jellyfish, I did. There's, I think, an element of fashion to both of them, but Princess Jellyfish isn't as in-your-face and is a lot more, well, kind of introduced to the concept. The only real problem I had with it is it didn't, it kind of had closure, but it almost felt like it was quick and sudden and incomplete at the same time, where it kind of wrapped up the main story and kind of left the some of the character interaction aspects unresolved. But overall, it wasn't that bad watching. Actually, the Blu-ray menus on that one are probably, they're very interesting. Maybe almost very Jellyfish-like, I would call it. Just the atmosphere they present. I'm not quite sure how to explain it. Oh well. Let's see. I watched A Channel and the Plus A Channel specials, and it was very interesting watching that one because, well, partially because the kind of anime it is brings instant comparisons to other similar ones, such as Lucky Star and Azumanga Daioh. And watching it, I could tell it wasn't leaving as big of an impression as those. Maybe even, well, K-On! As well. I mean, it seemed to draw inspiration from a lot of things like that. Maybe that caused A Channel to feel a little uncertain as to what it wanted to be. Maybe a bit. Overall, I think what it meant is that A Channel came out, and it's an okay piece of entertainment. It's not bad, in my opinion at least. It was just kind of entertaining to watch. It just didn't leave impact like the other three series I mentioned for whatever reason. K-On! I'm not quite sure, because it only occurred to me like half an hour ago that that comparison would be valuable thing to, or it would be valid to think about that. Whereas Azumanga, well, right now, I guess a lot of that would definitely be that Azumanga did feel like it kind of had a progression to it, even if it was a collection of random stories. And I think part of that is you really do follow the characters through high school. Also, Osaka is quite a character. What's his name? There's a famous comedian, and a lot of his jokes almost, maybe not the way he presents them, because I haven't seen how he presents them, but I know that the words he actually says, they almost sound like things that would come out of Osaka's mouth. And I think a lot of that is kind of what made Azumanga definitely more noteworthy. Is there's some way Azumanga had its way of delivering things that just tickled. It was hard to look away from. Things like that. And Lucky Star, I could definitely... Now, what I remember about Lucky Star as being particularly noteworthy is I felt like... This is probably the most interesting comparison to A Channel, because with Lucky Star, I felt like there was a lot of content in there that was almost more easy to think about, relate to. Things like, oh, I've got homework to do. I'm going to sit down and work on this. Oh, my room's a bit dirty. Well, I'll just clean up over here a bit. Okay, back to homework. You know, I should clean that part too. You know, humor like that, where it's like, oh yeah, I remember what it's like putting off homework and doing other things that are not entertainment, but things you need to do, but you just so happen to start doing during homework. You know, things like that, which kind of synchronize with the soul of a lot of people who would watch it. And kind of felt like A Channel may have been a little divorced like that, or if it was trying to go for that, or maybe it never was in the first place. And a lot of what A Channel was about was maybe the Japanese school setting specifically, things like bad, except that there's just weird kinds of humor in there that are strange. But I do have to say that I think it was the last Plus A channel thing that probably had one of the funniest scenes in that anime, in my opinion. I think it was there. I just finished watching this a little while ago, so I should remember better, but whatever. Anyways, entertaining anime. Let's see, I watched Fairy Tail Set 3, Disc 2, and I think it was okay. I was partially distracted by the new Minecraft release this week, and also kind of disappointed that we were watching Fairy Tail and not One Piece, because my friend was at a particularly interesting part of One Piece, like I mentioned last week, and I was kind of wanting to watch that. Fairy Tail kind of reminded me of it. Overall, Fairy Tail, it wasn't bad, but I think I'm waiting to see if Fairy Tail does something like One Piece does, and you know what it's like when you got unreasonable expectations and you're waiting to see whether or not an anime lives up to those. That tends to cause the watching of it to not be as entertaining. Fortunately, I can watch them because there's nothing particularly wrong with them, so I continue to watch them. And of course, since I mentioned it, One Piece Season 3, yeah, like I said, I think last week I was in the middle of that in a very interesting part, and my friend, I finished watching that with him. Yay. So, unfortunately, that's also boo, because it means now he's caught up to where I am, which is the end of the DVD releases, and we're both waiting for Season 4 releases. Now, it's my understanding that Funimation got the license. The voice actors, I think, were going to be the same, and it comes out... Well, this was an estimate from like a year or so ago that was predicting sometime in maybe June this year. But that, of course, is a prediction from a year ago, so it may not be accurate. I haven't looked for updates, or haven't noticed updates since. And I've been, peeking every week or so for new DVDs appearing on DVD Aficionado and Amazon in the distant horizon to see when One Piece Season 4 will be coming out. And no sign of it just yet, so unfortunately that means a good amount of waiting to go. Oh well. Anyways, let me finish up anime analysis by talking very briefly about something that's not anime, but I watched it animated, and I guess my opinion on that could be interesting, and that would be My Little Pony Friendship is Magic, specifically the Friendship Express DVD that got released recently, which has 5 episodes, including the first 2 and a selection of 3 episodes from the series. And I have to say, it was actually pretty entertaining. I'm not surprised it was entertaining. I figured it would be. One thing that really helped a lot going into it was I guess a month or so ago I probably watched it's probably a month or so ago when I watched Nostalgia Chick's review of the original My Little Pony, and she was talking. I think basically the main problem she mentioned was probably a kind of feeling of a lack of conflict to it, and watching Friendship is Magic, at a very minimum, it's light years better because there's conflict, there's goals, there's reasons the characters are doing what they're doing while you're watching them do what they're doing, and that, it just sets aside the fact that you can find the animation amusing and the characters and the character personalities amusing, and as seen from some of the episodes on there, when the series starts making fun of itself, which is actually pretty entertaining. Overall, yeah, I would like to see more, but as a DVD collector, I'd probably wait for DVD releases. Let's just hope they fix the problem. It looked like the audio and the video were desyncing on my DVD, and I was watching this on the Blu-ray player, which didn't have any problems with A channel just a bit ago, watched beginning to end. So I haven't popped it into any other players just to make sure, but I'm guessing that since all of these are pretty standard, that's something on the DVD itself, and maybe the audio-video desync stuff will be better taken care of in future versions, I'm hoping, of anything that gets released. Otherwise, that's anime analysis. I don't know what I'm going to watch this next week because the thing I want to watch is Fate Zero, but that's not here today. And when I get to watch it really depends on when it's going to arrive. So I can assume I've got 1-2 days or something like that, but whatever.